Welcome to the Screener College Basketball Podcast with your hosts, Mike Randall and Gus Kearns.
Welcome in, listeners, to the Screener College Basketball Podcast, where we're always talking everything college hoops. Mike, I'm just going to say welcome back. It's nice to talk. How are you doing out there? Are you okay?
Man, it's great to hear your voice. It's great to be back on the podcast. Listen, I've done a 180. With all the negativity that we have with COVID, with the quarantine, with the country, whatever side you're on, there's constant negativity. I just want to talk some sports. I just want some basketball. I want to laugh. I want hot takes. Gus, I'm so desperate. I'm making LaMelo Ball videos. I mean, clearly, I'm at a level that, like, you know.
Oh, listen, you guys could have been anywhere else on the dial, but you chose to be here with Mike and Gus, and we appreciate that. So thank you for doing that and joining the Screener, and we'll take you through some sports and some other things as well. So, Mike, I guess the question is, since we've been off for a little while, and, you know, the step away was, I guess, not necessarily by design. I decided to spend a lot of time with my daughters and try to use like what we're in as like a big teaching moment with everything that's on the table, whether it be COVID, whether it be the civil unrest, and just really spend time in conversation with them and really digging it home and try to make that right. So I guess, you know, we've been on lockdown for like 5 months now, and our country is revisiting a level of unrest everywhere, not witnessed since like the 1960s, and we don't have any sports. So I guess we just want to say, I hope the listeners are okay out there. Mike, I hope you're okay out there. And we're helping you get through a little bit of the day and maybe like a commute somewhere or maybe a walk around the neighborhood, because I've seen a ton of people walk around my neighborhood as of late because they're home as well. So we're hoping we're helping with that a little bit. Mike, is there anything else you want to get off your chest right from the start? I have a couple things, but I just want to open up the floor to you right away if there's anything you want to spit out to the listeners right there right away.
Yeah, I'm going to support Rothstein's tweets. Folks, wear a mask. We want sports back. Be cautious. Right. Follow the advice of our doctors. That's what we have to do here. I want sports back. I think the fall's very risky. You saw, Gus, I put that tweet out. I don't see the point in us trying to force December games, even though I would love nothing better than to watch the Maui Invitational. Okay? So
totally.
If I have to have a worst case scenario, put every team in the tournament. And listen, I get we're not going to do every team. I understand that. And Eli, my friend Eli Herskowitz is like, that's way too much Chicago State for me. I understand that. But
Eli's great, by the way.
But I think the NCAA tournament in March, I think the NFL will happen, without fans. But I think the tournament could be a point for us to aim at to get back to normal. I think 2020 stinks. It's the worst year ever. Let's just forget about it and move on to 2021.
I'm totally with you on that. And how about this? Just since we're talking like tournament and that type of thing, would you be okay if it was played a little bit later in the year? Like maybe an April tournament, maybe a May tournament?
Just give me basketball. I don't care. I mean, Gus, we could preview every coach in America. I don't care. It's fine.
I'll just get a couple things off my chest super fast. The sports world is tied to all of what's happening, currently in our nation, and the NBA and the Utah Jazz just helped the start line. They shut the sports down, basically. We can throw Colin Kaepernick into that. He made waves and played fortune teller for the civil unrest, less than 4 years ago. And some of our favorites from the NBA and from college game, Malcolm Brogdon, Jaylen Brown, Trae Young, they joined peaceful protests, and one of the greatest NBA players of all time, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, penned a very powerful op-ed piece for the LA Times. And we even had our buddy from Harvard, Seth Towns, join a protest in his home state of Ohio, the same week that he graduated from Harvard, which I thought was really poignant. The sports fingerprints are everywhere you look, so listen to it, feel it, touch it. Just get in tune with it. So I guess, what do we do? Where do we go for like leadership or help or rescue or care or support or enrichment, whatever it might be? And the method of which like you're listening to this podcast is part of the reason why things are so unsettled. Everybody has access to like painful or deadly images or comments. It's limitless. It's a little scary. It's scary for my daughters, and that's why I decided to just spend time at home and spend time with them and make sure that they're safe and they feel like they have a handle on things and things aren't out of their control emotionally. And the access to all of these images like really get at those raw emotions. So I think what I'm waiting for, Mike, is I'm waiting for that like right message delivered by the right person at the right time in the proper venue. And even with Twitter getting shut down, and everybody's blue check marks disappearing, like that speaks to like just more of the unrest and more of the unsettled nature of our nation. So I know that message is coming. I know that message is coming from the right person. Maybe it's Killer Mike. Maybe it's President Obama. Maybe it's LeBron. Maybe it's somebody else that we don't even know yet, that we don't recognize, that will find their platform. We're just waiting for it. And once that message arrives, let's all embrace it, practice it, and play it over and over again like your favorite song. Just like the student athletes do in our sport. Practice makes progress. Not perfect, but let's find some progress. Let's find some enrichment. Let's find some education and play that message over and over again when it comes.
No matter where you side, politically, wherever your side is on coronavirus, we can all agree on one thing. Me, you, everyone out there, our children, every human being in this country, no matter what age, no matter what color, no matter what religion, will be respected for who they are and treated as such. That goes for everyone. That goes for all professions. That is my guiding principle, Gus, that I'm trying to tell my kids. Respect everyone. You don't judge somebody because of their skin color. You don't judge somebody because of their religion. You don't judge somebody because of their profession. You treat everyone with respect and admiration and love. And I think that is what we need to get back to. It's so simple, but it's so hard to do. That is what I'm holding on to. That and our love of the game of basketball.
Let's hope that more folks find that simplicity and find it to be as simple as you're making it out to be. And just keep it as simple as possible and just follow those guidelines that you just said. That sounds perfect. Let's get back to hoops. And let's get back to hoops with some place that's really near and dear to our heart from our childhood. Start with Georgetown. And I think one of the things that happened with COVID-19 was finding out that Coach Pat Ewing had come down with the illness. And he healed up, thankfully. And he's making the whole thing real for hoops fans out there everywhere. Big East fans and Knick fans and East Coast fans especially. He had Mac McClung leave the program off to Texas Tech. Seems like a good fit. And speaking of the Red Raiders, they also landed Marcus Santos-Silva, grad transfer from VCU, and they also got Wichita State's Jameis Burton as a sit-out option. That's not a bad group for Chris Beard. So we hate to start off the hoops portion on like a negative with Pat, Coach Ewing getting sick and then getting healthy, but I think we got to talk some transfers here, Mike. What do you think of Coach Beard and the haul he has on the transfer market, including Mac McClung from Georgetown?
Yeah, McClung can score. McClung can light it up. He certainly can. I saw him a couple years ago out in Milwaukee when he stuck it to Marquette there in that big game at the end of the year. The guy's flammable. I think it's a good fit. I think he's going to have to play defense, obviously. And I think Texas Tech benefits from a flammable guy because they're so solid across the board with their length and their defense. And every once in a while, man, they can go a little cold. They can go through a streak there. So I like it. I believe in Chris Beard. He is absolutely one of the best coaches in the country. And Marco Santos-Silva, he's going to fit right in. He brings the havoc defense of VCU. Can't make his free throws, but everyone can't be perfect, okay? So, right. Yeah, I think Texas Tech is looking very, very solid. You can tell Beard is hungry. You can tell Beard is not just satisfied with making the final game, which I thought they were going to win, by the way, against Virginia. And they were okay this year, but not great. Who knows? But everyone's on the Chris Beard train, and I think he wants a title. I think Beard sees himself among the elite coaches, and he's got to get that ring to prove it. And obviously, he's got something good going down there because he gets Santos-Silva and McClung, big man and a guard.
When we talked to Jordan Sperber, earlier this season, we talked about mentioning Chris Beard in that top tier of coaches when you mention the best coaches in the sport, that he has to be included in that conversation. And how about this? And you just brought it up, Mike. How weird is it that Virginia is still the national champion? Is that crazy?
Unbelievable. All
right, let's stick in the Big East. Butler landed a nice transfer of Bo Hodges from East Tennessee State. And I'm just going to say there's nothing wrong with having a big scoring guard inside the Big East because we've seen the success of scoring guards inside the Big East, whether it be Miles Power, Kamar Baldwin, or Marcus Howard. Hodges brings a little bit more heft and a little bit more inside game, so I think that's going to help Butler and definitely help replace some of that absence on the offensive end, especially the responsibility that Baldwin had offensively and defensively for Butler last season. So I think Hodges is a nice fit there, and Butler just keeps kind of dipping into that transfer portal. And they pulled out Jordan from Duke a couple years ago, and now they have Hodges. So I think they're playing the transfer game just the right way in Butler.
Yeah, they certainly are. And Bo Hodges goes to Butler. He can certainly fill it up. Butler is another school like Texas Tech that has the vibe going. You buy into the culture. Yeah. Hinkle Fieldhouse, the whole thing. And Marquette, listen, I have gotten on Woj a lot, but Kobe McEwen, your guy, you pointed him out. I didn't think he's good. He drops 30. Okay, so we know what happens there. 5-star DJ Carton. Head case and some issues going on, mental health issues that he's dealing with, but super talented. And of course, that's something, Gus, that's affecting everyone nowadays, mental health, with everything going on in COVID. So if he gets right, this could really be a springboard for him and a foundation for him to improve, not only as a basketball player, but as a person, and to address some issues for him. So I think the upside with Carton is massive. And Perez from Gardner-Webb, I love these players. You and I both love them. Guys that come from small schools that can fill it up. They go on the big landscape, and all of a sudden people watch and go, where'd this kid come from? Well, we know where he came from. So across the board, Marquette, I'm not a Marquette guy. I've been down on them because I think a lot of potential Marcus Howard. And yeah, they go to Creighton and Howard has 75 points. I get it. But they are taking a step in the right direction. And Woj is on thin ice, but he's managing to pull in the recruits, which, as per Shaka Smart, will keep you there for a while.
Totally true. Love the combination of Carton and Perez. I don't know if Perez will get that waiver and be eligible right away. But, anytime you can bring in a 5-star guard like Carton and a New York City guard like Perez that has that swag, that's not afraid to go up against the biggest and baddest. I mean, let's just take their conference. They go up against Winthrop. That Winthrop team was awesome last year. They got the invite to the tournament. He put up 35 on the road against them and was like standing on the scoring table after scoring 35 saying, "This is my house." Like, I like Perez. I think he's got a little swag to his game. So I think if you can partner those two and maybe find them on the court together, that sounds kind of interesting. Throw in McEwen, who's still there. I mean, you got a 3-guard rotation right there that can actually do some damage. I think, and especially we can't stop talking about how important guard play is inside the Big East. They got 3 ones that can play there. And Mike, speaking of transfers, just let me get your 2 cents on this. Where are you at with like the one-time transfer waiver thing? I mean, with everything that's happening in our country, here's my 2 cents. It seems like the whole thing might fall under like the general safety. With everything that the country is absorbing right now, you might feel a little safer, a little closer to home, maybe closer to a relative, or maybe a particular community that you're really tight with. At this point, during this particular point in time, I think any student athlete should be able to go anywhere.
Totally agree.
Be a student athlete at that university because they feel safer there, or maybe because the CDC or somebody else says like they'll be safer there. This seems like a no-brainer to me with the current like ecosystem in our country. Mike, what are your thoughts? Do you think like just waive the transfer for 1 year and just revisit it next year?
I'm ready to let everyone transfer. And listen, I understand that the old guys, are worried about the repercussions. It gets to a point, Gus, where you can't worry about the repercussions. You and I go back and forth in the NBA draft. We'll talk NBA draft coming up, the whole thing. And I like the players to stay. I'm not judging them. I'm not saying they shouldn't have the right to go. That there's a difference, because I think they would improve their draft stock or their sustained NBA career by staying. That doesn't mean I think they shouldn't be allowed. They should be allowed to transfer. Gus, some people are kids are going to transfer, and it's going to be a mistake. Okay, that's life. They are older. They are 18, 19-year-old kids. They are going there for the coach. The coaches can go where they want. It's not that I don't care if a kid makes a bad decision. I think it's recoverable. And I don't begrudge kids who declare to go early because I don't think they should. Doesn't mean I don't think they have the right to do so. There's a difference. Right. So I would let everybody transfer wherever you want to go. And I think sometimes you have to let the decisions occur, because the decisions, whether they're good or they're bad, like having kids, right? They learn from them. Okay. So I think the system will even itself out eventually. Let everybody transfer. Let everybody, take advantage of name, image, and likeness. I'm done. I'm done policing something that you can't police.
Good. I'm glad we're on the same page there too. We might hit on that a little bit later, but as far as the name, image, and likeness thing, if the NCAA is going to battle the G League pathway program, professional pathway program, then that their name, image, and likeness I don't know, litigations really need to get underway and really have some solid footing. Otherwise, that's just going to continue to be not a big mess, but just continue to be another option for 5-star prospects to go out and make the money that they can earn on an open market that they're valued at, which is, the way the country should work. Let's talk about one of the biggest transfers from Florida, point guard Andrew Nembhard.
There we go.
Okay, he pulled his name out of the NBA draft, went to the transfer portal, and boom, off to Gonzaga. Now, I really feel like we need Eric Fawcett's insight here because he wrote a great piece on how he will fit perfectly into the Gonzaga offense and with Coach Few. Early returns are here. Yes, if we just pay attention, the last time the Zags took on a top flight point guard transfer, they ended up in the championship game with Nigel Williams-Goss. So I think Nembhard plus Southern Illinois grad transfer Aaron Cook provide tons of college minutes in the backcourt for the Bulldogs, and you know how Coach Few loves to play with those 2 point guards. Whether those 2 guys will play together, to be determined, but I think home run for both Nembhard and for Gonzaga, and I think it's going to work out perfectly.
Yeah, I think it's going to work out perfectly, and Gonzaga is going to be loaded. What they have this is the type of player that goes to Gonzaga and becomes an absolute first-team All-American. I've been very critical of him. I think it was the system. I needed to see him take over. I felt like in the games that I watched, when he started to take over, then Mike White put the constraints on him. If anyone can get the best out of Nembhard, it's Mark Few. This team is loaded. Aaron Cook, Suggs, loaded. Gonzaga, to me, is number 1 in the country. What a signing. This is the type of kid that goes there. Andrew Nembhard, Exponential Growth. That's the name of the podcast tonight.
And just to add fuel to your fire right there, if we just pay attention to Ken Pom tempo numbers, Florida, 326th in the nation, and we know that Gonzaga loves to play a fast tempo. They are 35th in the nation, so if nothing else, he will have further opportunity on the offensive end to show what kind of skill set that he has. All right, let's go dance and bounce around on the court a bit and go stargazing. 5-star gazing, Mike, one of your favorite pastimes. We love talking about 5 stars with Kentucky, but we're going to talk about 5 stars everywhere else. One of those places is in the G League. By the way, go Maine Red Claws. Love the G League team there.
Well, nice. Very.
They signed some 5-star dudes. They have Jalen Green, Isaiah Todd, Deshaun Nix, and now New Jersey's own Jonathan Kuminga. None of those guys decide to go to Duke or Kentucky or Kansas or Memphis or just another, Power 5 or Power 6 school. Mike, is this a big deal, little deal, odd deal, or just a different deal? What's going on?
Again, everybody can do whatever they want. We're in a capitalist society, Gus, okay? Yeah. And I'm going to equate this. By the way, hang on for this segue.
Love it.
I'm going to equate this to what's going on right now with restaurants. Okay, so as you know, Gus, I'm going to burn soup. So cooking is not my thing. Okay, so my wife cooks every night.
Also, could be the name of the podcast. I burn soup.
Yeah. Well, true story. I can make pasta. Okay, but congratulations. Who can't? Okay. But what we found is that the restaurants that we ended up trusting that we would order from are those that we went online and we saw their little statement about how they're being careful. And, we went and we picked up food and we saw if they're wearing masks or gloves or if they're spitting in the food, right? Okay. So what I'm saying is they had to remarket themselves. The G League is coming. It's here. We can't stop it. There's no point in arguing about it. And NCAA basketball is going to have to respond. They responded with name, image, and likeness. When the kids were able to leave high school, the Kevin Garnett's of the world, and skip college basketball was still fine. That was the year Joakim Noah and all those guys were great in Florida, won back-to-back titles. So I'm fine with this. I'm not going to sit here and say, I shouldn't be allowed to do that. No, if they want to do it, do it. And if enough kids fall flat on their face, a la the Lenny Cook story we've talked about, then they'll adjust. But no, I am not going to poo-poo it. I think college basketball is Teflon. I think it will bounce back. There will always be stars. Would I love to see Knicks playing? Yes, I did a video for him for our Screen the Screener College Basketball YouTube channel. So yes, I would like Knicks to have gone to UCLA, but I'm not going to begrudge him because he goes there. So good for the G League. NCAA, step up your game. I believe college basketball will always be fine, but we'll see what happens.
I'm totally with you. I think just to go on the other side of it, not the other side, but just to say why the G League might be interesting. They're going to play against pros every game. They're going to get paid. You mentioned name, image, and likeness can combat this. They still can get drafted after a year in the professional pathway program, and they have pros, Sharif Abdur-Rahim and Brian Shaw, in leadership positions in the G League. So it's just it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to play without the noise that the NCAA creates surrounding like a potential one and done season. Just see James Wiseman. The minimum that you make, $125,000. That sounds kind of nice to like a 19-year-old, 18-year-old. So the question is, what is the opportunity? Is the opportunity for an education worth to the student athlete and to each family? I think that answer is really going to differ. And much like you stated your position, it's okay. Like, everybody can go figure out what they think is best for their family and their situation at that moment. And I think it's another option. I think more options are good for student athletes to go get their market value. And Mike, speaking of an education, Mac McClung digested a lot of what we chatted about earlier at the top of the podcast, and he goes for an HBCU. He's going to Howard. He's headed to Howard. It's a bold move. I admire it. I adore it. And Maker mentioned the history surrounding Howard and the culture of the school and the program. I guess the question is, Mike, is this a movement? Is this a moment? Or is it something in the middle for top prospects? We've seen some of these top prospects mention Ivy League schools in years past, and a few other select, HBCUs included in their final list for 5-star players. But Maker is the one who made the move. Kind of hoping the season happens just to see what happens with this move alone. Where are you at with Maker deciding to go to Howard?
What do I always say to you, Gus? Be real. I don't care what your thing is. You want to press. You want to just be real.
Yep.
This kid is real. I talked about this with MJ Hurley. He was nice enough to have me on the Next Man Up podcast. We talked about Maker. I love it. The kid is super well-spoken. He has his priorities in order. He's trying to break the mold and be a trendsetter. God bless him. This would be great. Imagine the impact this could have to other schools. The kids open this avenue. So you know what? We see you, G League. You know what we're going to do? We're going to turn Howard into a powerhouse. I mean, how great would that be?
There it is.
God bless him. So well-spoken, smart kid, uber talented. And by the way, do you think the NBA is not going to find him there? I mean, come on. They're finding kids in Australia, France, all over the place. Great job by him. I love it. It's different. It's new. I admire him, and it's real. When I heard him speak, I go, I'm buying what you're selling, man. You're into it. You're doing it for the right reasons. Go get him. Start slamming on everybody.
Can't wait till he starts slamming. That sounds great. And how about another commit, another 5-star, Amani Bates? He found the value of the opportunity of an education by naming Michigan State as his landing spot for most likely just a season. The kid is properly hyped, and he went somewhere else besides Duke, Kentucky, Kansas, Memphis. We've seen Izzo's success with local Michigan kids, and that's what Bates is. It's kind of cool. It's kind of exciting and valuable for the sport. It's a long way off. It's another season away. But, Mike, my thinking is that season might actually get played in full, and that might be something that we can look forward to with Bates and with Michigan State and with the Big Ten. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, well, now I'm hearing that what Dick Vitale reported that Tillman's coming back. I don't know if that's definitive yet. I mean, it's a rumor, and
right.
Vitale said it. I DM'd Chris Solari. He did not respond. So that makes me think like it's not up in the air yet. But absolutely.
Wait to use the contacts and get in touch with Chris. That's all.
You like how I dropped that, guys?
Yeah,
I like how I dropped that. But absolutely. Michigan State, Tom Izzo, talk about a system program. Like, he doesn't just recruit everyone. Bates going there is huge for them. If Tillman comes out, look out. They can actually get in Gonzaga's stratosphere, which is saying something. I love it. I think it's fantastic. I'm very supportive of it. You know that Duke and Kansas, all those schools are going to get the big players. Yes, basketball is better when Tom Izzo and the Spartans are better, so I love it.
I'm totally with you on that, and I think even if it just happens for a season, it'd be a season that we look forward to. All right, Mike, we'll go a little bit down here, but with the Ivy and the Patriots shutting down sports for the fall and deciding not to do anything until the second semester, Mike, are you worried about our beloved hoop season that is a little bit in peril, seeing what's happening with football all over the nation in different conferences that we really count on? Where are you at, and what do you feel like if you're going to look into the crystal ball and play fortune teller or palm reader? Are we going to have a hoop season? Is it going to be truncated? What's going to happen here?
I am worried. Hearing the Ivy and the Patriots shut down is a problem. It's concerned. I don't think college football is going to happen. I think the NFL will. I think the NBA will. We'll get to that in a little bit.
Yep.
I think that we will see sports again in the 2020-2021 year. I'm absolutely positive of that 100%. I think that the likelihood of having sports, Gus, after January is possible. The vaccines are coming out. You heard Harvard say that they're going to have all classes be virtual, but the kids are going to be allowed to come back on campus. Yale is doing half and half. So half the kids come on first semester and the other half come on second semester. So, yes, I'm worried. I'm worried that it's going to be pushed back. But at this point, we have to be realistic, folks. Just like when schools in New Jersey were put on hold here, it was back in mid-March, I said right away that they're going to be out for the whole year. I said no, the rest of the school year, no doubt. It was an easy read for me. This one's easy also. Are we really going to push to get a game back in December 15th? I mean,
no.
Does that make sense to anyone? So I think, Gus, that we're going to push back. I think we will have a season. I think there will be a tournament. It may have to be in pods. It may have to be at home courts. That's fine. I mean, we want to see hoops, right? So, yes, that's concerning to me. It really is. And I think college football's in trouble.
I think college football's in trouble, too. And then just to talk about our sport a little bit, as far as long game to get to the tournament, I think each conference is going to have to find a pathway to hold, even if it's an abbreviated conference season, so there's some sort of champion that they can trot out into the bracket and say, this is our representative for our conference. I don't think that March Madness wants to have a tournament where it's just a whole bunch of blue bloods and names that are familiar. The beauty that is on the canvas for our sport exists in March. And the beauty of that canvas is the spectrum of colors from each conference that are allowed in to, mingle with those blue bloods. All of those other colors. I would find it impossible for March Madness to hold the same gravity, to have the same effect on the passionate sports fan, people that are listening to this podcast, but then just the generic sports fan, the wife out there, the occasional hoop watcher, the guy that loves soccer, the girl that's a lacrosse player. When they get invested in March Madness, they get invested for a certain particular reason. If you take those certain particular reasons out, then you're going to lose viewership, you're going to lose attention, and it's just not going to have the same feel. So I think it's on each conference here to find a way to have some sort of semblance, whether you mention it be in pods, whether it be at home courts, to have that conference season so they can have a representative in the tournament whenever that might be played, whether it be March, April, or May.
Sure, the conference tournament would be fantastic, but the key issue is they have to come up with some way to get the season in. And listen, that's why people think I'm nuts and every team goes in, but right. I want something to look forward to. You can't come back too early. What we can't keep doing is playing with kids and playing with health. Pick a drop dead point, start with that point, and then play the games from there on out. Gus, I say just wait until after January. Yeah. Right now, everything's so uncertain. Are we really going to miss games in December? I mean, Listen, I'd love to see the Maui Invitational, right? But if it doesn't happen, as long as there's the promise of something, as long as we get those games, conference tournaments, abbreviated tournaments, whatever, that's why I think the easiest thing is just to play the whole NCAA tournament. Put every team in. Play a couple games here and there. Sure, the Blue Bloods are going to have an advantage, but at least we'll have something. We need something to look forward to. They can't blow the 2021 tournament. We will have this figured out by then. Vaccines. Hopefully people will continue to follow good health protocols. But I need college basketball this year. We all do. So it doesn't matter what form it takes, whether it's after January or whatever, but we can't lose another season. We can't start with preseason games and early season tournaments that no one's flying to, okay? And then a couple kids get COVID, and then they have to be quarantined, and then games get canceled. Wait until we have a handle on this whole thing and deliver us a basketball season. That's why I love the big tournament in February, March, whenever it is.
I think, okay, so to make that realistic, to make this bigger tournament that you're talking about realistic, I think a lot's going to depend on MLS, what happens with their tournament that they're trying to hold inside their bubble. I think a lot of it's going to happen. A lot of it depends on what's going to happen with the NBA, what they're trying to do in Disney World with their bubble. And can conferences create a similar, smaller bubble for their whether it be pod of 8 teams, 12 teams, 16 teams, and then create that opportunity for those conferences to, have a representative. If the MLS and NBA don't get it right and can't figure it out, then I think that March Madness is going to be in trouble. That's my worry. That's my worry. Okay, so why don't we just go there for a few seconds with the NBA season trying to get back and find its way? What are some things that you're looking forward to there? I'll just go 3 things off the top of my head. I was just thinking NBA season, does a 3-point shooting look like it does? Do people not shoot the 3 as well as they did because of lack of repetition, whether they're able to get to a hoop or not? I guess do 2s, do normal field goals become a little bit more important? So that means does a player like LeBron or Giannis or Ben Simmons or Russell Westbrook, do those guys have a little bit more value because they were able to score in the lane with difficult 2s? And I guess the other thing is can we, if this thing is a thing, can we please have a Clipper-Laker matchup in the West Finals? That'd be awesome. What are a couple things that you're looking forward to as far as the NBA season goes?
Yeah, very excited for the NBA. They're trying to test it out here. I like what they're doing with the bubble. People know that we're very invested in NBA here, rooting for the Bucks, of course. So many interesting subplots out there. I think, by the way, Giannis has the MVP locked up because they came out and said that they're going to judge it based on the pre-March 11th season. So I think he's going to have back-to-back there, which is certainly very exciting. But so many things. I got to talk about the Sixers here, Gus. I mean, the process. Okay, the process is still going on. Are they moving Ben Simmons to power forward? Is that correct?
Yes, and they're going to bench the player that they just signed to a max contract.
Right, yeah. I'm sure that's going to work because that's happened before. The process to mediocrity, which has been correct and has worked, and that's pretty much where it's going to end.
Congratulations.
Okay? I mean, please, enough. But the other thing I thought was really interesting from a gambling perspective is, of course, I'm going to go with the early season NBA unders until I'm proven otherwise. In college basketball this year, unders were hitting at a crazy rate, something like a 63% rate through the first month of the season, and then the books, of course, adjusted. So I think there's a lot of gambling opportunities here that you can take advantage of. And of course, one more thing in terms of a DFS NBA, which I'm starting to get into now, Gus, because we got to bet on something, right? I got to hear the Establish the Run podcast started by Adam Levitan and Evan Silva. Got to interview Evan Silva for the Road of His Mailbag, which was fantastic. They've started an NBA DFS component, and they brought in Drew Dinkmeyer, who is pretty much the foremost authority on NBA DFS, been one of the most winningest players across the world, really, in NBA DFS. So he came on and brought up an interesting perspective, which he feels that, number one, he thinks that there are players who perform much better when they're home than when they're away. And a lot of the reason is statistically because the home scorekeeper is going to be affected by the crowd like the officials are, and affected by the player who they're seeing constantly every day. So the home scorekeeper is more likely to give a block when they probably shouldn't, or give an assist. Assist can be so subjective. So he is identifying players. And if you want to go check it out, Establish the Run, you should with Dinkmeyer. He talked about how certain players he feels are going to be affected more than others. So for example, Nikola Jokic, somebody who lights up the stat box there with blocks and assists and all that other stuff, he may not do as well early in the season because the neutral scorekeeper is not going to be as influenced in an empty arena in a neutral site than Jokic would when he's home in Denver. So I thought that was really interesting. So if you're playing NBA DFS, just a little tidbit, you want to go for your go-to scorers probably, but the guys who fill up the ancillary stats, particularly subjective stats like blocks and assists, they may not hit those totals. So you could maybe look for some good opportunities, to get those players either below on over-unders, game over-unders, or even in DFS. So I thought that was real interesting, but really excited for the NBA start of the season. Give us something, Gus. We need something right now.
Evan does a great job. I mean, I'm a big fan of his as well. So I'm glad that you shared his input and that where some of his information has come from. That's awesome. Please go visit Establish the Run. They do a great job over there. All right, Mike, anything else for the listeners out there? I think we just want to say hello, we're back. We're going to talk some hoops from here on out. We're going to try to keep you updated. We're going to talk a little draft next time. I'm so happy to say cheers, cilantro, grazie, latte, arigato. Happy to be back in your earbuds a little bit or back on your speakers, and hope we're helping you keep you company a little bit, and we'll try to do the same thing from here on out. So it's nice to reconnect with everybody. Hope everybody's okay and safe and calm out there. Cheers.
I'm addicted to the appetite. sit in the vans and get cozy in the candlelight.